Let's meet the man. Pissing our pants yet? Boy, do I have a feeling we're getting close.
So out of those three clips, who do you guys think had the better introduction? The Governor, Negan, or the Whispers? That's what I want to discuss in today's video. So the Governor and Negan were the two main villains of The Walking Dead up to season 9. There's always discussion about which, villain is more cruel and better, Negan or the Governor. I even made a video talking about that. If you type in Negan versus the Governor on my channel, you'll find it. But in season 9, we got introduced to a new group of villains, the Whispers. And the introduction of the villain is a very important thing in not even The Walking Dead, like film in general. Introducing a big character is always important. And now we have the introduction of all three main villains of The Walking Dead so far. And I want to talk about who had the better introduction, not who had the better arc, because that's much different. I mean, we're going to discuss that too. But for the most part, who do you guys think had the better introduction? Now, I can definitely say who I think is the weakest, and that is the Governor. I'm sorry, Governor fans. The introduction of the Governor was not all that great for me. But that being said, I still think the Governor had a much better villain arc than Negan. And the reason I say that is because, well, we haven't seen the Whispers yet, so we don't know that. But Negan's introduction, I think, was beautiful. Like, it was so well done, so dark. But as time went on with the Negan story, his character became more weak as opposed to the Governor. He had a pretty weak introduction, but he got more scary as we watched him. In the clip, we have Michonne and Andrea, and they're super terrified of this person because they think that he's in person, because they don't know that everybody turns in the apocalypse no matter, how you die. This is early on in the apocalypse, but we know it was a walker, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And the Governor had I think the Governor was really well written. And, I did love the story of him bringing Andrea and Michonne back to the communities, and he was being over friendly, and we kind of saw that, just like Michonne saw that this guy is not a good person. So I do think the Governor was well written, but I also think he had a pretty weak entrance to The Walking Dead. Negan and the Whispers are a totally different story. The Whispers introduction is still fresh in my mind, so I'm very hyped about it. But looking back at Negan, let's talk about him for a second, because I know he got introduced in season 6, episode 16, but his main introduction was season 7, episode 1. And I know a lot of people hate that episode because two fan favorite characters died, Glenn and Abraham. But I think we all have to admit that episode was really good from a writing, directing, and story standpoint. I honestly think episode 701 is one of the best ever. But going back to episode 616, where he had his real introduction, Negan coming out of that RV and giving that 5-minute speech, I think that it's hard to beat that introduction as a villain. That, not just The Walking Dead, like all time in television history, that's a great introduction to a villain. And it's very hard to beat that. That moment was so terrifying for fans and, the characters, because we knew somebody was gonna die regardless. We knew it was inevitable. They were surrounded by hundreds of saviors. There was no way around it. And then also on top of all that, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's acting as Negan in that first episode, he absolutely killed it. And I think that was an amazing introduction for a villain. And then we have the Whispers. Now, we didn't get our main introduction to the villain, like the leaders of the Whispers, Alpha and Beta, but we did get the introduction of the Whispers. Now, I will say that the Whispers are fresh in my head. And after seeing that episode, episode 908, when the Whisper ducked and stabbed Jesus, I thought that was like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in The Walking Dead. I still think it is. But does it compare to Negan's introduction? That's where I'm kind of stumped on, and I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think is better, Negan in Negan's introduction or the Whispers or the Governor's? You know, people might think the Governor's is better too. You know, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I will also say the Whispers had such a great build up. You know, we got that little bit of an introduction in episode 6. I'm not calling that the main introduction because people who don't read the comics might have not known what was going on. But that episode 8, when the Whisper stabbed Jesus and whispered in his ear like very quietly, that is scary as shit, and I think that was amazing. So that's why I'm a little stumped of what I think is better. And not only the Whisper stabbing, that move he did, you know, dodging the knife, that was epic. And then also the atmosphere throughout the whole episode in that graveyard. You know, they couldn't have done it any more scarier than they did. Now, although the Whisper's introduction is still fresh in my head, my final answer is I'm gonna have to go with Negan. I think Negan had the best introduction on the show. It's very hard to beat Negan's charisma and how brutally he killed Glenn and Abraham and that whole speech. It's very hard to beat that. So my final answer is I have to go with Negan, but I want to hear from you guys. So I just quickly wanted to make this fun little video talking about the 3 main villains and their introductions and which I think is the best. So in the comments down below, you leave your thoughts and opinions, and hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. For more Walking Dead content like this, be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.